Bring in Yanis Varoufakis, a well-known politician as well in Europe, the former finance minister of Greece back in the days of the Greek debt crisis, and now the Secretary General of Democracy in Europe movement. Yanis Varoufakis, lovely to see you. Thank you so much for joining us here on our live show all about the German federal elections, the Bundestag elections. What has been your reaction so far to the exit polls? Have you been following them carefully?
Oh, yes. They seem to be totally aligned with the opinion polls previously. Let's see whether they will also be aligned with the actual results. I suspect they will be. But if you want my reaction to the outcome, as opposed to the accuracy of the polls, allow me to say that from where I'm standing, this is a very paradoxical election. Because at once, it is more or less business as usual, in the sense that we're going to have a change of chancellor, but more or less the same quasi-permanent coalition of Christian Democrats, Social Democrats, with the splattering of the Greens. The same coalition that, in my estimation, in my judgment, put Germany on a long road towards stagnation for the last 15, 20 years. And at the very same time, this is why I'm calling it a paradoxical election, it's an utterly transformational election in the sense that the AfD, the ultra-right-wing, xenophobic Alternative for Deutschland, is becoming normalized, not only because it has doubled, or more or less doubled, its percentage, but because its policies seem to have infiltrated the firewall. They have gone into the CDU, the CSU, the SPD, the FDP, and also parts of what used to be the left. So this is my take on it. It's a highly paradoxical election. It's business as usual when Germany cannot afford business as usual, and also the normalization of something that should never have been normalized.
You mentioned the AfD. Why do you think they did so well in those elections today? Is it because people don't trust the left anymore?
Well, there's no such thing as the left in Germany. The Social Democrats have been instrumental since 2009 in imposing particularly harsh austerity, not just on the people of Greece or Ireland or Portugal, but on the people of Germany. Remember, Mr. Steinbrück was the architect of the catastrophic, utterly mad debt break, the constitutional provision by which essentially the constitution prevents investment from taking place in a country like Germany. So this stagnation has been the outcome of this permanent coalition of the center-right and the center-left, with the Greens as well. So who was left to harvest the bitter harvest of discontent? The ultra-right.
And what about Die Linke? They're doing relatively well. Do you think they should join the coalition government or rather join the opposition?
It depends on what their true motivation is. As a left-winger, I wish them well, but they haven't shown any signs in the last few years, the last 5, 6 years, of being relevant and radical at the same time. If they simply want to be another variant of the Greens or the Social Democrats, they can join this coalition. If they want to play a constructive role as a radical opposition, they have to acquire some radical positions. And they have not done that, except for, and that is not to be scoffed at, I recognize the value of that, of stemming the ideological march of the ultra-right, the xenophobic AfD. So I very much fear that the next 4 years, in exactly the same way, remember when Emmanuel Macron was elected or re-elected in France, he was considered by the liberal center to be their salvation from the galloping Le Pen, the ultra-right. In the end, he ended up massively reinforcing the ultra-right and also adopting many of their policies. And I very much fear that the next Merz perma-coalition of the radical center, of the center-right and the center-left, is going to be essentially, unwittingly, I'm not saying that there's any intention there, they are going to be strengthening the AfD.
And just finally, we're here with Charles Michel, the former president of the European Council, who was stressing the necessity for unity among the 27 EU leaders at this very turbulent time for Europe and the world. From where you are speaking to us tonight, how do things look here in Brussels? Do we look like we've got it together here, or is the European Union, quite frankly, going through a very, very challenging time?
With all due respect, our European leaders, including your guest, resemble headless chickens running around in panic, in total and utter disarray. That was the inevitable outcome of 15, 20 years of paying lip service to solidarity when all they were doing was imposing harsh austerity on the peoples of Europe while printing massive quantities of money for big business and big finance, which never invested it. Because when the many are in pecunious, why would big business invest? They took the money of the European Central Bank and simply bought back their own shares and bought fancy apartments in Berlin and Hamburg. And therefore, now we have the chickens are coming home to roost, they're headless, and they are easy prey for somebody like Donald Trump.
Yanis Varoufakis, thank you so much for your time and for sharing your perspectives on the German Bundestag elections with us.